Now, I don't think it comes to any surprise that I've been a big fan of Gen Z content this year. So I thought, let's just throw all the videos into one. You know, you can fall asleep to them, take a to them, do whatever you want, really. No, I haven't recently started taking up smoking cigarettes. I just have a really bad cold. With that being said, here is Gen Z nostalgia. Gen Z nostalgia. Man, growing up in the 2010s, there is so much that we got to experience. I mean, think of it. It's a pretty big flex to say we were the first generation to grow up with iPads. Now, whenever I think about growing up back then, I just realize how unmatched it is. Like, sure, our parents grew up in the 80s or 90s listening to punk rock and partying all day, but did they get to experience watching Markiplier beat all 5 Nights and Five Nights at Freddy's? I don't think so. So in this video, which I guess could be considered a part 2 for this one, I'm going to be covering even more Gen Z nostalgia because I feel like there's so much more I can talk about. So the first thing we're going to be talking about is the school book fair. This was the equivalent of Christmas in school. Whenever you were sitting down in class and your teacher started handing around the little flyers for the school book fair, you immediately knew it was going to be a good week. Because in my elementary and middle school, they would always give the flyers around 3 to 5 days before the actual book fair started. So everyone would be opening the magazines and looking for books that they want, and then they would circle it with a marker. But the one book that everybody was looking for in specific was the new Captain Underpants book and the new Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Those were the holy grails. But I'll talk more about that in a bit. So, you know, after everybody circled what they wanted, everybody would go home and ask their parents for money, you know, so they could buy the book that they wanted. Me personally, I never got money for the book fair. One of the reasons being because every year for Christmas, I would get the new Diary of a Wimpy Kid book, which is reasonable. But otherwise, I never understood how come I wasn't able to have money for the book. To me, it seemed totally unfair because while all my friends and everybody else in class was buying books and posters that they wanted, I couldn't get anything. I was sitting there looking at an eraser. But the older I got, the more I realized, oh wow. Yeah, my parents had every right not to give me any. Because now that I'm older, I realize how badly they were taxing at these book fairs. Like, do you remember the posters they would have? At my school, they would usually have 1 Five Nights at Freddy's poster, 1 Minecraft poster, and 1 poster of a sports car. Yeah, guess how much those posters were? $25. Yeah, I wish I was lying too. $25 for a colored printout of a Ferrari. And I swear, I remember the quality of these images not being the best either. Which is probably why they kept them so high up so no kid could see them. I would not be surprised that if I bought that poster, there would probably be like a Getty Images watermark on it. Which absolutely should not be the case, especially if I'm spending an astounding Scrooge McDuck amount of gold on it. They were taxing a heavy amount on the books too, though. And I think something else they did on purpose also is keep a limited amount of Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Because they must have known that every single kid is going to dash directly to the table with Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Like, aw, we can't get Diary of a Wimpy Kid? Here's Big Nate. Who is reading Big Nate? I actually was reading Big Nate. I thought it was pretty good. Next up, we're talking about video games. Now, video games back then were so good. I don't know if it's just that we grew up, or if there's actually been a serious downgrade for video games, but when I hop on a video game now and play with my friend, it doesn't feel the same really. Something about playing Black Ops 2 Zombies with the homie at a sleepover just hit incredibly different. Nothing will ever be able to beat that. Like when I was at my friend's house for a sleepover, at around 9-10 p.m. is when we would turn on his Xbox 360 and start running zombies. And bro, we would turn off the lights to do this, and let me tell you, it was pretty nerve-wracking. One time me and my friends were left home alone because their parents went over to go for dinner, so it was just us in the dark playing zombies. And when you would hear that awful laugh late at night, after you know exactly what laugh I'm talking about. The one that goes, what am I doing? You also had Minecraft. Again, it very well could just be that we grew up, but Minecraft just doesn't feel the same anymore. Ever since the entire Dream SMP came in with Minecraft and everything, it just has felt empty almost, like an entirely new community has taken it over, which it honestly is what happened, but that's not a bad thing. You know, I just want to say for the record, I'm an OG Minecraft player. I remember when horses were added. You know, at the time, the most popular maps that were out there were the DanTDM lab maps and also the giant city map. Don't even get me started on Herobrine. Everyone was doing the netherrack and gold totem thingy, you know, trying to summon him. And bro, I'm not gonna lie, I was so scared of Herobrine. You know, I'd be playing Minecraft on my Amazon tablet. I would build the totem, but would be too scared to actually activate it. But then, when I finally got the courage to light the totem, my heart was beating. I was so scared as to what was gonna happen. I lit the totem and nothing happened. Absolutely nothing happened. You know why? Because Herobrine is not real. It is a big wig. I don't think anything will ever beat Prime Fortnite. I know that sounds cringe. Well, technically, Fortnite is... Yes, I know. But the first few seasons were immaculate. It was some of the most fun I've ever had on a video game in my life. You know, it was a completely new game and it was different from PUBG. You could build things. So when this entire new video game came out, so many people were playing it. It's just one of those things where you truly needed to be there in order to understand. And I know, you know, well, technically speaking, Fortnite is cringe. Yes, it is. There's no arguing that. But you just have to believe me. Please, please believe me. Movies. We grew up with some of the most iconic movies ever. I mean, think about it. We grew up with Ratatouille, The Incredibles, Cars, WALL-E, Finding Nemo. Personally, I really don't think that people who grew up nowadays are gonna be saying, wow, do you remember how good the Snow White remake was? Like, nah, bro. Literally nobody is going to be saying that. Nah, there's no way. You know, Cars is still my favorite movie to this day, unironically. Yes, I know the story is flawed and the animation may be a little bit outdated, but Cars was the coolest thing back in the day. Okay, not only is Lightning McQueen one of the coolest protagonists ever, but he was also a car, which could be converted into a toy. I see what you were doing there, Pixar. I said this in my video about toys, but I had an entire collection of all the Cars characters. I remember one year when I was younger, my parents ended up getting me a boxed set of Toy Story 1 and 2. And bro, those movies were so good. And I deserve a veteran's discount now because I can say I watched Toy Story 3 in theaters. And wow, that movie came out almost 15 years ago, which just makes me feel really old. But then you had other classic movies like Monsters, Inc. I am not even going to argue on this. Monsters, Inc. is one of the best movies with one of the best endings. But then, you know, you have The Incredibles, starting off with one of the best intro songs, you know, but nowadays, you know, they're putting out movies like Toy Story 5. Why does there need to be a number 5? I really don't know, man. Hey, want another video to watch? Click this playlist here. It has every single one of my videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and to all of my lovely subscribers. Mobile games. Now, when it comes to mobile games, definitely a lot has changed over the years. We went from strategy and puzzle-based games where you had to at least use some portion of your brain to whatever this is. Seriously, what is this? Now, I'm not sure if you remember, but back in the wee ages of our youth, mobile games were all the rage. Everyone would be coming to school with their iPod Touch and be playing these games all recess instead of, you know, being active. Now, I truly do believe that we lived in the peak of mobile games, and what better way to honor them than to go back. Yeah, that segue sucked. Holy shit. Now this is a certified classic. The premise is very simple. Finish the level without making any mistakes, and you win. Touch to spike? Go all the way back to the beginning and try again. All the while, your ears are being bombarded with dubstep music. The thing about Geometry Dash is that something even as little as precise timing can cost you that entire level's run, forcing you to keep trying again and again and figure out the timing and touch patterns out for yourself. Eventually, over time, it just becomes muscle memory. It requires such patience, which is something that I even struggled with when playing this. The thing about it is that there was no way to cheat or anything, you just simply had to get good at the game. And thankfully, I was. Instead of socializing and making friends at school, I was sitting at the lunch table playing Geometry Dash. In the long run, was it worth it? I mean,
Who else in my graduating class can say that they're able to beat all 3 demon levels? Yeah, I bet not many. Yeah, those 15 minutes of fame were totally worth it. Geometry Dash is one of the best mobile games, whether you were good at it or not. 10 out of 10. Dumb Ways to Die. Bro, this game was another amazing one. The game makes you solve puzzles and complete tasks to, you guessed it, prevent yourself from dying in a dumb way. It started off simple and easy, but then it would get faster and faster, and more obstacles would pop up, and you'd have less time to complete them. Then they released 2 more games. You have no idea how hype I was when I found out that these existed. The only thing that pissed me off about this game was the ads, which honestly, it takes it down a couple spots for me. Also, a real quick fun fact about this game, it was actually part of a railroad safety campaign for Melbourne, Australia. This is how you properly do a PSA. Such an iconic game, 8 out of 10. Angry Birds. Can we just take a moment of silence and acknowledge how hard this game fell off? This game really was at the top of the world. It had collabs, merch, and at one point even its own movie. Angry Birds was just one of those things that I think were only so popular because it was close to the only available thing at the time. It was either Angry Birds or Candy Crush, and unless you're past the age of 35, ain't nobody playing Candy Crush. Angry Birds had a bunch of spin-offs like Bad Piggies, Angry Birds Go, which was essentially just a Mario Kart but with Angry Birds. Me personally, I was an Angry Birds Star Wars guy. I even had a t-shirt of it. This game was very simple and very straightforward, and I think paved the way for a lot of what mobile games were to be. 7 out of 10. Clash of Clans and Clash Royale. Alright, now I just want to say that these 2 games are very different now than what they used to be like 10 years ago, before the sweats and hackers and everything of the sort. I remember I used to play Clash of Clans all the time, building my town hall and upgrading mines, things like that. The thing is that it requires patience, where you wait anywhere from 15 seconds to like an entire fucking week. But you could skip the entire wait and anticipation by using gems. But oops, they're blocked by a paywall, and these gems aren't cheap either. For like 1,200 gems, it's like $10 plus tax. So this would lead me and many others to go down alternative styles of acquiring them. That being free gem hack 100% working 2016. Now I remember when I would be looking at these on my Samsung tablet, I wasn't even actually able to get to the part where you got the gems because I kept getting spammed with pop-ups on my screen, as well as being told I need to complete some survey. But every time I would do the survey, which by the way took like 10 to 15 minutes each one, you know what? Nothing would happen. I'd be sitting there like an idiot. Now, Clash Royale was the exact same way, but it was somehow worse. Instead of waiting for a town hall or a building to upgrade or something, you were always waiting on your chest to open. So you had to wait an entire extra like 12 hours to get your rewards. And half the time, the rewards were garbage anyways. And this is pretty much how Supercell makes money, and it wasn't just these 2 games. You had other games like Heyday, Brawl Stars, Boom Beach. Did anyone ever actually play Boom Beach? Like, I would see advertisements of it everywhere, but I don't remember anyone actually playing it. All I remember is that back in middle school, people kept calling it Boom Beach. Anyways, these games were okay, but the entire paywall thing definitely takes it down. 4 out of 10. Subway Surfers and Temple Run. I'm just gonna put these 2 things together because, let's be honest, they're essentially the same thing. You're running away from something as the course gets faster and faster. Doesn't matter if it's an angry security guard or a giant monkey gorilla thing. Okay, seriously, what the is this thing? For me, these 2 were games that I would play maybe while I was waiting for my parents to run into the store and grab something, or when I'd be waiting to get picked up from school. But if you play for more than like 3 rounds, it just gets very stale very fast because there isn't much replayability. After all, it's an arcade game. You just try and beat your previous high score, and that's it. No levels or progression, nothing. Now, I will give Subway Surfers credit where credit is due. The music was indeed one of the best bops to have ever come out of the 2010s. It still goes hard to this day. Another thing about it is that it can captivate your attention. Don't believe me? Well, I've been playing nothing but gameplay on your screen for like the past 20 seconds, and I'm willing to bet you were watching it the whole way through. I think TikTok and Subway Surfers single-handedly revived Family Guy back into popularity because of those gameplay clips. Not a great game, not a bad one, 6 out of 10. In conclusion, either mobile games have changed drastically, or it could just be nostalgia. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to follow my socials. I'm gonna leave those all down below. You know, maybe even hit the big red button. I'm also thinking of creating another channel, or maybe even 2 channels, to talk about completely different things, like video essays or commentary, something along the sorts. So if you actually would find interest in that, please let me know down below. Thank you guys for all your support. I love you all so much. Things we all did as kids. I'm not sure what it is about this specific generation, but when it comes to things that we all did as children, we all share that thing in common. So of course, we're going to start with running our fingers through the school brick wall. Now, every time I was in the hallways, whether it be going to the bathroom or switching classes, I would always scope out an area of the wall that wasn't covered in posters or bulletin boards, and I would run my finger along it. Yeah, I'm not sure why, but it just hit different. It was impossible to stop. But then some teacher decided to ruin the fun for everyone in elementary school and decide that we were no longer allowed to do that, and that if we were caught, we'd get in trouble. Always leave it up to elementary school teachers to ruin any ounce of creativity and entertainment that kids have. Now, fast forwarding to 10 years later, I'm going to say loud and proud on the rooftops that I still do this. Starting off strong with a 10 out of 10. For the next one, all I gotta show is this. Yelling into a fan is one of the most euphoric experiences a child could ever have. Like, bro, we were Travis Scott before Travis Scott. This was the OG auto-tune, you know? I'm gonna be real with you guys. When I see a fan to this day, you already know I'm running straight up to it. It doesn't matter where it is. Walmart, IKEA, it doesn't matter. Now, a little story time. I know. First one in like 6 months. So one time I saw the fan spinning, and I always wanted to, you know, see what would happen if I put my finger on the plastic blades while it was spinning. Intrusive thoughts. So I did it, and to my surprise, it didn't really hurt that much. So then I decided to take it a step further, and for some reason, lick the fan blade. Yeah, I wonder what happened there. 8 out of 10. Pretending to smoke. If you live somewhere where it gets even a little chilly, you immediately know what I'm talking about. Back in school, I used to hang out with my friends, and we'd each scavenge the playground for like the shortest stick we could find, and then we would find one, and we'd all gather around together, put the stick to our lips, and pretend they were cigarettes. Till the day I die. Even though I can legally buy cigarettes, I'd much rather just pick up a stick and pretend it's a cigarette. So you're telling me I can look like a delinquent cigarette smoking child, posing myself at a much greater risk to cancer, but without damaging my lungs? Sign me up! Another banger, 10 out of 10. Alright, next up we got running. Crawling up the stairs. Now this was peak mobility. I was able to run up the stairs on all fours in the span of like 2 seconds. I remember it used to give me like this weird adrenaline boost. Yep, nice. This weird adrenaline boost the second I would reach the top. But if you thought I was fast during the day, you didn't see anything until you saw me at like 3 in the morning after getting a glass of water. You think I want Jeff the Killer to get my ass? Hell no, which is why I am booking it to the top. I know for a fact I was rumbling the entire house with how fast and aggressive I was stomping up the stairs. I bet if there's some video out there of me doing this, people would mistake it for one of Gollum's deleted scenes in The Lord of the Rings. I don't do this anymore because the current house I live in doesn't have stairs going to an upstairs, but also because I'm 6'2", and once you get a certain height, I think it almost just becomes physically impossible. Another 10 out of 10. This video has been filled with nothing but bangers. Okay, now for these next few, I'm just gonna be all slapping them together because I can't really say much about them. This thing. What was this thing? It was like a gang symbol almost. For the longest time, I didn't know how to actually draw it. But when I did, I pretty much felt elite. I felt like I'd just been welcomed into the cool kids club or something. This, to our pencils. Why did we do this to our pencils? For me at least, I remember there was a certain point where it just became unusable. I remember every time I would write on it, my knuckles would like smudge all over the paper. It was horrible. While on the topic of pencils, let's move on to erasers, which is essentially the same thing. Why did we always stab the erasers? What did they do to deserve that? And last but not least, that little door stopper thing. Whenever I would see one, I would either just twang it back and forth, or I would pull it as far as I could and let it go. I don't know what it's called, and I don't want to know what it's called. It will always be known as a door spring to me. Childhood fears. Fears. We all have had them, and fears are different from person to person, and we're all scared of different things. For example, arachnophobia, or the fear of spiders. In fact, arachnophobia is a lot more common than you may think. To be exact, about 13 to 15% of the population has this fear. Me personally, I'm not scared of spiders whatsoever, unless if they're Australian. But like I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of different fears that a lot of different people have. Where one thing may seem completely normal to me, it may just be somebody's greatest fear. For example, pogonophobia. Now you may be sitting there wondering, what in the hell is pogonophobia? Well, here it is. The fear of beard. If someone seriously has this fear and you're watching this video, please comment down below. Like, I'm genuinely curious to learn more. Now, with all that being out of the way, I think it's time to talk about my most ridiculous fear as a kid. South Park. Now, don't ask why I was scared of South Park, because I honestly don't know. You know what? Actually, that's a lie. For starters, take a look at them. Look at those giant eyes and those beady little pupils. That honestly scared me so much as a kid. Like, I used to have a dream that Cartman would walk into my room and just stare at me blankly. Yep, that's right. And honestly, I think I was scared of him for the wrong reasons, because he's one of the most cynical characters ever. To me, it's honestly weird that I was so scared of South Park as a kid, because as of right now, it's currently one of my favorite shows, and I'm actually binging it like crazy. Next up, we have rodents. Now, I am so scared of, like, mice and rats. I honestly have no idea why. You know what? No. Once again, like South Park, I have a very good idea why. And the first reason is that they carry diseases. Like, bro, the amount of diseases that a mouse carries around? Ugh. Like, it's awful. Like, rats alone, I swear, are the main cause for the Black Plague, because they were spreading that disease like wildfire, bro. But it's not just that. It's the fact that they're so tiny, and they scurry, and their little feet, and their little Like, picture this. You're relaxing in your room, right? And all of a sudden, you see a rat just scurry across your room. You know, and it also has like a Cool Ranch Dorito in its mouth. Now, in that situation, are you going to A, sit there and go, huh, look at that silly little rat running across my room? Or B, the rational decision, go, bro, I don't care if I'm 45 years old, I have a wife and kids, and they see me as the strongest person ever. If I see a mouse, you know for certain that my is going to be getting up from exactly where I am and sprinting directly outside, never thinking about it again, because mice are just so bad. But rats, like I said earlier, ugh. For example, in New York City, I have seen cats probably like the size of a cat. And I am not joking about that. It's actually disgusting. Another time, I saw like 5 to 6 rats probably eating a single piece of pizza on a plate in the subway tracks. And about, I want to say, 2 to 3 minutes later, the subway came, and yeah, I got right on it. It's safe to say that I don't think those rats ended up seeing the very next day. Either A, because of the train, or B, because the pizza probably got them sick. Next up is going to be heights. Heights are one of my greatest fears, and I truly mean that.
I don't know why, but every time I go anywhere very high up, my legs, they just suddenly freeze, and I get a feeling like I'm gonna be going down a swing almost. Like even if I'm to climb a tree, like a branch not even 5 feet off the ground, and I'm sitting up there, you know for a fact I am scared of that. Bro, I am not messing with heights. No way. As scared as I am of heights to this day, I'm not really scared of flying, like at all. Which is weird because you would think it's the complete opposite considering you're tens of thousands of feet up in the air with no way to escape. Yeah, bro, I am not messing with heights. Not one bit. Next up, we have needles. Now, I think every kid is scared of needles. Like, bro, let's be real here. Nobody actually goes to a doctor's appointment and says, wow, woohoo, I can't wait for them to put that giant 3-inch needle in my arm. No, literally nobody. And if you are, bro, something is going on and I don't know if I'm comfortable with it. I don't know. It doesn't matter how many juice boxes or Oreos that the teachers would give you at the time you needed to get a needle. I was always petrified and I was always praying that I was the last one to get my vaccine shot. I remember in the 4th grade, I wanted to act super tough, you know, pretend like I wasn't scared of needles. It was one of the most stinging pains Yeah, that totally made sense. One of the most stinging pains. What am I saying? It was one of the sharpest pains I have felt. And again, that was in the 4th grade, and I still remember it to this day in my arm. My poor arm. Yeah, bro, needles are not it. Today, I'm a little bit better with them. I just try and look the other way. Because the last time I got a needle and I looked, which was like 3-4 years ago, I ended up passing out immediately after. Like, they sent me out of the doctor's office with, you know, my lollipop. And as soon as I started walking, I immediately passed out. Yeah, bro, it was not fun. Next up, we have the dart. Now, once again, just like needles, I think this is something that so many people are scared of, or used to be at least. When I was a kid, I used to have one of the biggest fears of the dart. I think it's because I used to watch, you know, things I wasn't supposed to secretly. Like, bro, that Adult Swim thing. You know, the one with the sun coming up and then you see, I don't remember what it says, but you have to know which one I'm talking about. When it was like 3 a.m. and you were sneaking downstairs to watch that, and that came on in the dark, you were most definitely gonna be freaking out for the next little while. And I can tell you, it was not fun whatsoever. Because who knows what could be under the bed? Or in the closet for that matter. Yeah, bro, the dark, eek. Hey, want another video to watch? Click this playlist here. It has all of my videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to use my link in the description below for Surfshark VPN. Thank you for sponsoring this video. Thank you guys for watching so much, and to all of my lovely subscribers. Growing up in the 2010s, it's really hard to think that 2013 was already 10 years ago. When I think back on this past decade, many different things come to mind. Cartoons, music, school, and even this platform, YouTube. The majority of my memories from this era bring me great comfort, and I'm really happy I grew up in the time that I did. According to my age demographic, the majority of my viewers are aged 18 to 24, which means that most of you did end up growing up in the 2010s. So, I thought we could take a little trip down memory lane together. So grab your goldfish crackers and your Capri Sun, and let's talk about some Gen Z nostalgia. The first thing I think we should bring up is toys. You know what I mean. Lego, Zuzu Pets, Pokemon cards, Polly Pockets, Hex Bugs, and whatever these things were. Almost everybody would bring their toys from home and play with them during recess on the play structures. Now, I don't know if anyone outside of Canada has experienced this, but my school used to have indoor recess when it was too cold and snowy outside. Bro, when indoor recess was going on, things were wild. I remember all the girls would pull out their Polly Pockets and Zuzu Pets, while all the boys would be pulling out their Lego Star Wars and Hex Bugs. Words cannot describe how much I loved... Okay, scratch that. How much I still love Lego Star Wars to this day. Oh, you think I'm joking. This is my Lego Star Wars shelf, and it's still growing to this day. I remember when I was a kid, I traded one of my tech decks for a Lego Snow Trooper, and I still have him to this day. But I don't think I can go on without going in depth about Pokemon cards, and you know what? Let's throw in silly bands for this matter. People were dealing both of these like it was I remember I had a huge binder of Pokemon cards, and some girl took them out of my desk and took them home. She's a dumb jerk and I hate her.
Something equally as tragic is that I found out some of the cards I owned are worth hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Silly bands, like I said, were the exact same thing, and it got so big to a point that my teacher had to write a note on our classroom door saying, "Silly band free class." This teacher also was anti-fun though. It could either be because she was pregnant at the time, or maybe she was just a bitch, I don't know. Next thing I think we gotta talk about is YouTube. Alright, now I was gonna put YouTube in the same category as TV, but I eventually decided against it because YouTube has enough substance that could easily be its own video. Let's start with the edgy humor, iDubbbz, Max Mofo, Leafy, H3, Keemstar, and the man, the myth himself, Filthy Frank. I remember watching Hair Cake when it first came out with my friends. I think the next installment of the Cake trilogy was more anticipated than the MCU. And this is before Marvel turned into the politically correct woke corporation that they are today. Then he just blueballed his entire community to pursue an even more successful music career. Another thing about YouTube is creepypastas. Bro, can we acknowledge how scary those were at the time? This is gonna sound really weird, but I miss when simple things would make me as scared as those did. Like, I could sleep in a back alley in the middle of Chicago and be unfazed because, you know what? I read Ben Drowned. Okay, maybe that's an exaggeration. Let me list some creepypastas that may give you a bit of nostalgia. Ben Drowned, Smiling Dog, Red Mist, Sonic EXE, Side Mouse. Bro, I could go on and on and on. I remember early in the morning, me and my brother would wake up every weekend at like 5 a.m. and watch creepypastas and Mr. Nightmare on YouTube in the dark living room, and we'd be sitting there in absolute terror. Man, I still watch Mr. Nightmare to this day, and I've been a huge fan of him for years. Next up, we got video games. Minecraft has changed so much over the years, without a doubt. Not only the community, but the game itself. Remember these textures? I remember Minecraft was crazy back then. Every update was changing the game in a new, insane way. Like, I remember when horses were added and everyone was going crazy about them. And although looking back, they're a little useless now, it was still crazy at the time. Same with these books. I think where Minecraft sort of dipped out of popularity was when the textures changed and netherite was added. I don't know, man. I will always be more excited finding diamonds than netherite. Same with Flash Player games, though. Does anyone remember Papa Louie? Bro, the amount of businesses this guy owned. He must be a quadrillionaire, constantly opening up these new restaurants. Or this dude, Fancy Pants. Oh my god, I just know this guy was drowning in Wii Sports was also really popular at the time. And although it's sort of become a meme to this point, whenever you would see this dude, you might as well just turn off your controller and walk away, because this dude was going to whoop you into the next century. And what about Call of Duty? My mom could tell me that she hates me, but I'll just be indestructible because I've gone through this already.
Your bitch ass.
But for the past couple years, Call of Duty has just sort of felt dead. And I mean, the most recent Modern Warfare game is bringing back some of this toxicity, which honestly, I kind of missed it. It feels like old COD. Alright, next up we got cartoons. Bro, can we please take a moment to appreciate some of our fallen soldiers? Now, whenever people bring up classic cartoons from the 2010s, these are almost always on the list. I remember watching these almost every morning, whether it be before school or on the weekends, after my Mr. Nightmare binge, of course. These cartoons, even as a kid, I just had a feeling they would go down as memorable. These shows had such a unique yet simple premise. Amazing World of Gumball was my personal favorite because every episode was so out there. Regular Show was the same way, and SpongeBob was also really funny back then. The comedy seemed like there was actual thought put into it, and the characters were a lot more likable. Now I feel like it's way too exaggerated and every facial expression is made in hopes that they become haha funny Twitter meme. I honestly could have mistaken Nickelodeon with Disney on how much they've beaten SpongeBob as a franchise. And it's not only SpongeBob, it's literally every new cartoon. Like, have you seen some of the garbage they're airing nowadays? Bro, I can almost guarantee no kid is ever going to look back in 10 years and say, Oh my god, do you remember when we used to tune in to Baby Shark's Big Show?
Stop the cap. Stop the cap right now. Stop the cap.
The worst part is they're ruining some old classics like Rugrats. Look what they did to my boy. Going back to what I enjoyed, my second favorite show would have to be Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Because as a huge Star Wars fan myself, while some people hate the prequel era, I personally love it. When I found out there was an entire animated series dedicated to fleshing out the world more, bro, I was ecstatic. I'm actually on a rewatch of it right now, and it's probably playing in the background while I'm editing this video. Now, although our childhoods may not have been anywhere near perfect, I still think there were a lot of positives that we got to experience. Now, that's going to be pretty much the end of this video. If you want to see a part 2 or a full video dedicated to any of these topics, 100% let me know. I would have so much fun making that. Thank you all for 25,000 subscribers. I love you all so much. Thank you. Things we all hated as kids. Now, during childhood, there are things that you love and things that you hate. Things that you love can include Pokemon cards, cartoons, and eating cake for breakfast, while things you hate can be homework, vegetables, and going to bed early. So with anger on my mind and a desire for nostalgia, I thought, why not make a video on this topic? So sit back, pull out some Scooby snacks, and join me as we look at things we all hated as kids. Alright, the first thing on our list is going to be vegetables. Now, keeping it 100% real here, I honestly liked vegetables as a kid, and I still do. I'm not sure if it's because my parents knew how to actually cook them, you know, by incorporating them into dishes, instead of just boiling them in water with salt and pepper, or because I thought they were colorful. If you don't like warm vegetables, well, you're in luck, because you don't even need to cook them. Like, have you ever dipped a raw baby carrot in ranch dressing? It's immaculate, it's amazing. But why? Why is everyone so mean to broccoli? Broccoli can't even catch a break if it's cooked or completely hidden in a dish. The only thing it has going for it is the fact that it looks like little trees, and yet people still hate on it. Like, the only bad thing I can think about broccoli is that it makes your fart smell bad. Like really bad, trust me. Don't ever Dutch oven yourself. Like, if I'm sitting outside on a hot summer day, I'm sorry, but the last thing I want is cheddar jalapeno chips. I would much rather go for the cold, crisp vegetables and dip. Not only do they taste fire, but have you no idea how beneficial they are for your health? According to Google.com, a diet with vegetables and fruit can lower blood pressure, reduce the risk of heart disease, stroke, and even some types of cancer. There's just no reason to hate on them. You guys, I'm sorry, I'm taking vegetables side on here. Vegetables, easy, 11 out of 10, no questions asked. Alright, next up on the list, we got homework. Now, let's be real, is homework something that literally any kid liked? Even the smart kids hated homework. I just don't think it makes any sense. Like, hear me out. You're telling me I have to go to school for 8 hours, 5 days a week. Literally the hours of a 9 to 5. But then, once I get home, I have to continue doing that? Like, for real. If school is not a place for sleep, home is not a place for work. I'm not even getting paid for it. Like, they've been giving me overtime since the age of like 8. When I get home from school, the first thing I want to do is kick my feet up and turn on Cartoon Network, not work on algebra. So, I just didn't do my homework. So then whenever the teacher would ask, hey, where's your homework? I would say, I left it at home. Which is true. I did leave it at home, just not filled out. Homework was so garbage, dude. This is gonna be a 1 out of 10. This is so bad. Alright, bro, next thing on the list is going to be girls. Now, as a little 8-year-old boy, I despised girls. But then something in my brain suddenly switched. But when we were kids, boys and girls, we hated each other. Like, no one could stand being next to each other. Guys literally treated girls as if they had some disease called Cooties. Are Cooties still a disease? Because that was like the cheese touch on steroids. But the older I got, I started to appreciate them a little more. I'm not even gonna give this a ranking. Alright, next thing on the list is going to be coffee. Now, when I was a kid, I remember tasting my parents' coffee and always thinking, bro, this is just straight ass. Like, for real, I just thought it was water straight out of the African Nile River, because that was just straight garbage. Now, literally every kid says the same thing about coffee. Oh, it tastes like bitter black water. Okay, first off, why are you drinking black coffee? Nobody I know under the age of 45 drinks black coffee. And number 2, one thing I learned is the quality of the beans really matter. Like, I'm sorry. If it's gonna be like Starbucks coffee over Dunkin' Donuts coffee, I don't care if it's more expensive, I'm always gonna pick Starbucks coffee. Because let's all stop lying to ourselves. Dunkin' Donuts coffee is straight buns. Like, I honestly don't care if it's only like $2 or $3. I'm still not paying for that. I'd rather drink out of a puddle in the New York subway system. Coffee nowadays, though, I'm not gonna say I'm addicted, because I really don't think I am, and I don't think that's me being in denial. Like, sure, I enjoy it, but honestly, like, I could easily go weeks without it. But I know people who literally can't go a day without it, and you can tell because they're all grumbly and they're unhappy for the entire day. Personally, every now and then I drink coffee in the morning, but it's definitely not an everyday thing because, bro, it's so expensive. But it also really messes up your sleep schedule if you have it past like 11 a.m. Coffee is getting a 7 out of 10. I like it now. Alright, next thing on the list is going to be taking a bath or a shower. As a kid, personally, I hated having to take a bath. I have no idea why, but it seems that it's just our arch nemesis. Like, I avoided taking a bath or taking a shower as much as I could. That being said, though, that doesn't mean that I didn't do it, because there was always that one stinky dude in school where instead of taking a bath, this dude would drench himself in Axe body spray. Like, bro, come on, it doesn't work. Like, you're covering up the smell of must with even more must, only to create an odor that is just so uniquely disgusting. Nowadays, though, nothing hits better than doing a face mask and taking a bath. Now, I know some of you may call me zesty in the comments for doing a face mask, but guys, I'm telling you, don't knock it until you try it. Imagine you get home and it's about to be the weekend and you just had a long day at work. You're telling me you're not going to take a shower or a bath? You want to smell like your cubicle for the rest of the weekend? Like, nah, bro, don't lie. If I was a kid, I would rank this a lot lower, but now that I'm and I can truly appreciate the small things in life, taking a shower and a bath, easy 10 out of 10. Alright, next up on the list is going to be reading. Now, as a kid, I didn't read often. Really, the only things I would read were like comic books like Garfield and Calvin and Hobbes, which now thinking back on it, isn't even reading because it's mostly just pictures. When I was like 8 or 9 years old, my mom tried so hard to get me to read the Harry Potter books, and she eventually told me I wasn't allowed to watch the rest of the movies until I read the books. And since I had only seen the first 2 movies, I obviously really wanted to see the third one, so I started reading the third one, and I kid you not, I did not finish that book until I was like 11 or 12 years old. That is how much I hated reading. I'm not sure if it's just because my attention span was garbage, or if it's just that I didn't care. And it's not like I could have just lied to my mom and say, yeah, I read the book, because she would quiz me on the most random details of the books. It was insane. Like, if in the book it said which way Harry Potter wiped after he just took a she definitely would have asked, and I would have had to answer it very specifically. Even nowadays, I don't really like reading. I mean, I read sometimes, but I'm really trying to get back into it. And I've gotten a couple books to start reading, all thanks to my dad, and honestly, Loney too. Shout out Loney. Right now, reading is a 6 out of 10. Final thing on the list is going to be sleep. I'm not sure why, but kids seem to have a relentless hatred towards sleep. And I think it's because kids have no responsibility pretty much. But the older I got, it was around halfway through middle school where I realized I had been taking sleep for granted. Because in a sense, sleep is an escape for reality. That sounds a lot darker than I wanted it to sound. But come on, bro, you gotta know what I mean. It's not just sleep though, it's also just laying in your bed and doing literally nothing. Like, bro, coming home from an 8-hour shift and then sitting on your bed and taking off your gross work socks, oh my god, that is awesome. The older I got, the more I appreciated it. Sleep, easy 10 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching, and to all of my lovely subscribers, Adobe Flash Player. While this world is filled with many differing opinions, I think that there's one thing that everyone can agree on, and that is that Adobe Flash Player was there to save us from the boring everyday routine that is the educational system. Whenever you had work to do in the computer lab at school and you finished what you had to do, usually the teacher would tell you to go play games that were educational, and this is where I introduce our savior, Cool Math Games. Now, Cool Math Games and Adobe Flash Player go hand in hand when it comes to reigniting the spark in kids' lives, but unfortunately in December of 2020, Adobe Flash Player was permanently discontinued and removed from all previous web browsers. Now, don't you find it a little suspicious that the world completely fell apart starting at the beginning of 2021? This is just proof that Adobe Flash Player was the only thing keeping the world united. So, as a memorial of this wonderful browse extension, I thought it would be appropriate to talk about the many different games, starting off very strongly with Papa Louie. This guy has to be making so much money with all the businesses he owns. Not only does this man have a pizzeria, not only does he have a donuteria, but this man also has a sushiria. Now, on top of all of that, he's filthy rich, and he's a culinary genius who puts Gordon Ramsay to shame. Now, one thing this game did was teach kids at a young age proper customer service, and to always do your best with the end product. In the end, eventually getting you a very nice $0? Sometimes you would try your absolute best on trying to satisfy the customer with their wishes, putting blood, sweat, and tears into it, but they just weren't happy with the end product, which once again is ominously close to what it's really like working in customer service. But the one customer I hated the most was Quinn. Just look at her. I think the character designers made her specifically look like the biggest bitch on planet Earth. Once again, proving my point that this is to set you up for the future. The entirety of the Papa Louie franchise has my utmost respect and is most definitely a place I wanted to work at as a kid. Next up is one I haven't seen mentioned yet, and that's Pop Tropica. Now, every time I think back on this, it really feels like a fever dream. That being, I don't really remember much of it. Pop Tropica was a game where you were able to roam around in different islands and roleplay and talk to people. Some of these classics may include the Game Show Island, Sharktooth Island, and the Spy Island. Throughout these worlds, you could walk around and talk to the NPCs within the game, and they could send you on little missions and such. Sometimes they would even have collaborations with bigger things such as Big Nate and Charlie Brown. Of course, you can't forget the Wimpy Kid Island though. In these islands, you could interact with the characters from said franchise, but the best one, once again, was the Wimpy Kid Island, because you actually got to talk to the hygiene prodigy himself, Fragley. Nah, don't even ask me what was wrong with this dude. He was crazy. If I were to shake his hand in real life, I just know I would get a rash about 4.5 hours later. Next, I'm going to talk about Henry Stickman. This game had you perform all types of crimes as this mischievous little scoundrel, such as escaping the prison, stealing the diamond, infiltrating the airship. Yo, what? This guy was unstoppable. If you were to put this man in Alcatraz, he would easily just be able to fly away or something. Henry Stickman is a soul who will definitely not be forgotten when it comes to the Great Flash Purge. My only complaint about this game is Henry himself, who looks a little plain. He doesn't have anything apart from his eyes that really stand out. But if you think about another game who's also a Stickman, there are two things that stand out. Who could I be talking about? Or this dude, Fancy Pants. Oh my god, I just know this guy was drowning in pussy. Yeah, I still 100% stand by this statement. Never did I ever think I'd ever be physically attracted to a Stickman, yet here I am. Bro, come on, just look at him. He just looks like the word majestic. Especially those locks, bro. The way his hair flows in the wind as he's running through these obstacles. And of course, you can't forget his signature orange pants as well. In this game, you play as Fancy Pants, who is making his way to rescue his sister who has been kidnapped by pirates. Not only is this man fresh as but he's also a hero. Fancy Pants is without a doubt one of the best to come out of my childhood. Now lately, I've been thinking about some things that I don't know the answer to, such as, what comes after death? How can I make sure I leave a positive impact on this world? Why out of trillions of other options was I born? And most importantly, what does this alien's face look like? Oh yeah, I just know you got a blast to the past seeing this little gray sphere with roller skates. Bro, there ain't no way anyone hasn't played or at least heard of this game. This is easily the most recognizable. In this game, you do as the title says. You run. You run from obstacles eventually while the world gets faster and faster, as well as more challenging. And although it wasn't impossible, it indeed was frustrating, but it wasn't as infuriating as this game. To this day, I can't make it past a certain point without raging, and honestly, can you really blame me? I mean, it's literally called the Impossible Game, and I think that's what they were going for. This game actually required you to master timing as well as dwindle every inkling of patience that you had left inside of you. Like, me and my friends used to play this, and it would usually end up in one of us getting kicked out of class because we were saying the word. Another game similar to this was Bloxors. This game actually was like playing a game of chess. You have to calculate each and every move precisely, or your block will fall into the red pit to its demise. Now, although most of these games require a fraction of intellect, there is one game that was just fun for the sake of being fun, and that would be Club Penguin. Bro, don't even get me started. True, you can still get Club Penguin and it can be found on some sketchy website, but it's just not the same. I had more fun on Club Penguin as a kid than I did any other game at the time, like Roblox or Minecraft. I loved being able to talk to real people and do mini games together. I remember I would decorate my igloo and dress up my penguin. Bro, it was awesome! Especially when it was like Christmas or Halloween and the entire map would be decorated. The servers would have little events and sometimes even exclusive mini games. But the thing that beats all of that is the music. Bro, Club Penguin has some of the best jazz I have ever heard in my days. The music still slaps. I am 100% certain that the background music for this segment is the Pizza Parlor theme. But then it was shut down, and the official servers were just wiped. I originally didn't know why Club Penguin was shut down in the first place, and without getting into detail, it's because of degenerates who couldn't keep to themselves. And although Adobe Flash Player and Club Penguin are both shut down, I'm still really happy I even got to experience them. Rest in peace, Adobe Flash Player. We love you.
Childhood toys. Now, growing up in the 2010s era, I think it's safe to say that we all grew up with some pretty awesome toys. A lot of them being so memorable that we still remember them to this day. You have timeless toys like Lego Star Wars that are still as popular today as they were back then, and then other toys like Silly Bands that were nothing but a trend for the time and later dissolved into nothingness. Now, when I say some of these toys were popular at the time, I'm talking like the Backstreet Boys and One Direction of toys. Everyone was rocking these. I think we just had it the best for childhood toys though. Like, I refuse to believe that anybody in 10 years is going to think back and go, do you remember when we used to play with our poopsie slime surprise? Like, nah, bro, shut your bitch. Like, what in the hell even is a magic mixie? After seeing some of the awful toys that are being produced nowadays, I thought, why not make a video about toys that Gen Z grew up with? And what better way to start this video off than to talk about Beyblade? Man, Beyblades at the time were so popular. I remember every recess at school, me and my friends would go outside and rip some Beyblades, you know? We would go into one corner of the playground and get the spinners ready for a truly wondrous battle. The way you would typically use Beyblades is it came with the Beyblade itself, you know, the thing that would spin around, and it also came with this little ripper thing. Now, with the little ripper thing, in order to send it spinning, it came with this little plastic string hoop thing that you would then have to pull or rip in order to send the Beyblade spinning and clashing into one another. Hence the name of their little slogan, Beyblade, Beyblade, let it rip! Now, although you could use the ground for you and your friends to have Beyblade battles on, that typically wasn't the best option because they would a lot of the time just move away from each other since there wasn't really an enclosed quarter, which is where we introduce the arena. Now, there was always that one homie.
Jesus Christ.
There was always that one bro who would pull up to school with the officially licensed Beyblade Arena. Now, the Beyblade Arena was literally just a plastic bowl, and I'm not even joking, like, Tupperware containers were made of better quality plastic than those toys were. But again, nobody really cared at the time because we were kids, and because, again, it was still an enclosed space for our Beyblades to battle with. This is a toy that was so popular at the time, and it even had its own TV show. Like, yeah, I don't think you'll ever see Poopsie Slime Surprise ever get its own TV show. Beyblade is goated, and it will forever remain goated. Easy 8 out of 10. Trust me, there's better ones to come. Next up, we got Lego Star Wars. Now, Lego Star Wars is one of those toys that are just as popular now as they were back then. You had classic sets from both the movies and the Clone Wars TV show. And you guys,
I have something to admit. I am still a collector of Lego Star Wars to this day. And you know what? I'm proud of it. Lego Star Wars is something that brings me so much happiness, and I know exactly why. Not only is it a collab between one of my favorite movie franchises and favorite toy, but it also brings me so much nostalgia. I didn't want to keep this part too long because there's still so much that we need to cover. Lego Star Wars getting the best score it possibly can. Next up, we have hex bugs. Hex bugs were these little vibrating robotic bugs that would come on their own. And then after buying that, you would buy these tubes for the hex bugs to move around in. I don't really know, dude. Essentially making it sort of like this own little robotic ant farm looking thing. Actually, I'm going to be the first to admit it. I did not like hex bugs, and I thought that they were some of the stupidest toys to be invented, even as an 8-year-old child. Not only were they extremely overpriced, like I'm talking, this alone would set you back like $30. But again, that's just for the bug itself. So after paying an outrageous price for this little vibrating pill thing, you had to buy these PVC pipe looking things from the store that were almost double the price of the little bug. But then once you finally set up all of that after spending what, like $50 to $75 on everything total, you need to buy batteries for when the bugs starts to give out. Are you serious? Like, this absolutely has to be some kind of scam, right? And of course they couldn't just be like normal sized batteries. They of course had to be the ones that were like half the size of a Tic Tac. I don't even think I have to mention that the batteries were like an extra $20. That is why I don't like hex bugs. Oh, but look, it's just a little baby bug. Shut up! It's garbage, waste of time, and a waste of money. 1 out of 10. Next up, we have Pokemon cards. All right, now we're talking. Pokemon cards are something that almost everyone I knew loved. People were trading them left and right and building a collection of cards that you would keep in a binder essentially just to show off to your friends and even family. But let's be honest, no one at home really cared about them. Only the homies understood. But that's what was so great about them. All of your friends would talk about the new cards that were releasing or talking about what they pulled in last night's booster package. Everyone was at peace and loving each other. You know what? Maybe that's how we can bring peace around the world, by giving Pokemon cards to everybody. Now let's all just be honest with ourselves. Nobody actually knew how to play the game, so let's all stop pretending like we really did. Like, I mean, you could try playing the game, but I don't really know why you would do that. I mean, you just pulled this super cool, shiny, fancy looking card, and you're telling me you want to ruin it by slamming it on the ground? Why put them to use when it can sit in a binder for all of eternity? Dude, I'm telling you, Pokemon cards are so goated. Something that makes me happy is knowing that it's still popular today, and there's still a dedicated community to it. Pokemon cards are so good. 9 out of 10. Bakugan. What in the even were these? Okay, let's stop pretending like they were revolutionary, because they weren't. They were cool for like maybe 2.5 weeks. I don't know. These sucked. 1 out of 10. Next up, we got cars. Now, I'm not just talking about Hot Wheels. No. I'm talking about the actual cars. Like the ones from the Disney movie. These were some of the best toys ever to be made, and I truly mean that. I would collect so many of these when I was younger and loved every single one of them. Like, the amount of cars that I had was pretty impressive. I, no joke, had pretty much every character from the first and second movie. Now, those cars were goated, trust me. But let's not forget about Hot Wheels here. Hot Wheels, you had so many more options in both cars and tracks, because for Disney's Cars toys, it needed to be an official licensed, track. But when it came to Hot Wheels, they could just make really whatever you want. Hot Wheels most of the time would come with these huge tracks that you could turn into your own personal race course. They were flexible, so you could turn them into loops and make them drive really in all directions you want. You could make them go all the way around your house if you really had the resources to do so. Hot Wheels cars were also lighter, so again, you could do more with them, because the Disney Cars ones were made of like solid metal, so they were pretty hard to manage. I'm so sorry if I sound awful here. I'm feeling so sick. But I also think I should mention Hot Wheels is just like, dude, it's a franchise. Like, they've made actual Hot Wheels video games. And you know what? I'm gonna be the first one to admit it. I, as an 18-year-old adult, bought the Hot Wheels video games. It was really fun. I honestly loved playing with these cars so much as a kid. But when it comes to nostalgia, the Disney ones, they just hit me more. Cars is still one of my favorite movies to this day. You know what? These toy cars are getting a 10 out of 10. Amazing. Hey, want another video to watch? Click this playlist right here. It has all of my videos. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and to all of my lovely subscribers, Gen Z childhood crushes. We've all had them, whether they be real people or fictional characters. I know for sure I had a couple fictional character crushes. Like, even if I knew that they were really bad, like, I don't care what horrible things they've done. As long as they got it and they're a fictional character, bro, I am going to be at the doorstep the very next day. One of the examples being Vicky from Fairly Odd Parents, but I'll get to her in a bit. You know, everybody has crushes when they're younger, and at least for me, when I realized I couldn't get the person that I actually had a crush on, you know, because I was in the 3rd grade. Hey, why not have a crush on someone who's fictional? Because they have very little flaws most of the time. Unlike Vicky. Anyways, I thought this would be a really fun and relatable video idea to make. Starting off with one of our first candidates, don't act surprised, Mrs. Incredible. Now, I don't care who you are. Everybody on planet Earth at least found Mrs. Incredible a little, yeah. Like, bro, for starters, take a look at her build. Really? Really, Pixar? They knew exactly what they were doing with this, and that's what makes me mad. This isn't even a real physical build, I don't think. Like, in order to reach this player status, you would need to consume an insane amount of, like, Krabby Patties and grits. Bro, what the hell are even grits? What did I just say? Oh, so it's like oatmeal. Ew, shrimp? Ugh. Shrimp? And guess what Mrs. Incredible's superpower is? Elastigirl. Bro, why, Pixar? Why would you do this? You can't convince me and tell me that they didn't know exactly what they were doing with this. No, there's no way they didn't. Now, this next person, I'm going to say what everyone else is too scared to say, or rather too ashamed to admit. Maybe because it's seen as weird or immoral, maybe. But you know what? I don't care. Judy Hopps. Officer Judy Hopps is the protagonist of Disney's 2016 animated feature film Zootopia. She's in fact the first rabbit officer of the Zootopia police force, ever. On top of that, she is also one of the greatest fictional characters ever formulated within the minds of Disney Pixar Studios, ever. And I am tired of pretending that she isn't. And you should be too. Like, if you come up to me and look me directly in the eyes and say, I do not find Judy Hopps at least a little bit attractive. Bro, you are obviously lying straight through your teeth, and you know it. See, like, I see other creators doing Hear Me Out streams, and every time that one brave soul decides to muster up the courage to say Judy Hopps, they go, ew. Like, shut the f. If there's one thing I do recommend staying away from when it comes to Judy Hopps, it's Judy Hopps fan art online. I think it goes without saying that I can't show any of these fan art images within the video for obvious reasons, because some people just like to cook up some of the most devious pictures ever. But yeah, in short, Judy Hopps, 10 out of 10. And if you say anything below 7 out of 10, brother, come home. Mrs. Watterson. Gumball's mom is one of the greatest cartoon conceptions ever. She has a really low temper, which may sound bad at first, but when you really think about it, it's pretty much your own personal bodyguard. Like, if someone's messing with you, you can just yell, "Oh, Nicole!" And let's not forget her anime rendition. Okay, next up we got Britney Spears. Bro, Britney Spears, in my humble opinion, bro, oof. Now, I'm talking before the entire head shave thing. I mean, like, I'd see her on MTV as a kid, and come on. I'm not gonna get too far into this. Considering she's a real person, and I don't really feel like, no. Like, fictional characters, I feel 100% okay talking about, but real people, I don't know, it just, no. Okay, we're moving on. Vicky. Now, Vicky, the way you treated Timmy Turner was absolutely awful, you know. Timmy could scream that the house is on fire, and Vicky wouldn't care. Vicky would not bat an eye to him. But with a build like that, I don't understand why Timmy hated her so much. Like, bro, you have a shot, go for it. You know, Timmy, I know you may not be into cougars, but come on, look. I feel like Vicky's definitely a goth girl, or like even a Hello Kitty girl, so bro, she might be insane. Scratch that, she most certainly was insane, bruh. Like, the entire house house could explode, and somehow, some way, she would find a way to pin it on him, and the parents would always believe her, bruh. Like, in what world does that make any lick of sense? She'd always end up getting away with it too, which was so insane to me. But at the end of the day, it was a cartoon. You know, I'm not gonna hold too much of a grudge against it, especially if they got characters, you know, like this. Danny Phantom. Now hear me out, okay? I don't swing that way. I promise you I don't. But you cannot look me directly in the eyes and say, this is not a very good looking dude. Bro, look. What other dude has white hair? He just looks cool. It's not even the fact that I have a crush. Okay, no, dude. Oh God, it's more of a fact that I just wanted to be him. He's just so cool. Like, I don't think anybody really ever under the age of 60 can make white hair look good, but somehow Danny Phantom did it, and I just wanted to be him. But alas, he was a cartoon, so I couldn't be Danny Phantom. And I was stuck being little old lame me. I couldn't be too boring. I mean, I'm doing YouTube now. Thanks, guys. Rapunzel. Now, I'm not talking about Rapunzel from like the really old medieval times fairy tale book. No, I'm talking about Rapunzel from Tangled. Bro, when I was a little kid, the first time I watched Rapunzel, I vividly remember having a dream that she saved me from the tower. That sounds so weird. But I specifically remember she showed up and I was stuck in the tower, you know, just dressed like normally, and she threw her hair up and she used it as a tightrope, you know, to come save me because I was the damsel in distress in that situation. Yeah, I was just dressed in my normal plain pajamas. You know, there was probably like mustard stains on them because I had eaten hot dogs the night before. But I remember watching that movie for the very first time at the wee little age of like, I don't know, how old was I? 8? Let's see when it came out. 2010. So I was 6 years old when this came out. You gotta be pretty memorable if I still remember you almost 10 years later. More than 10. Oh, I'm old. I had the biggest crush on her at the end when she cut all of her hair off. You know, when Flynn Rider grabs that shard of glass and cuts her hair to shoulder length and it all becomes brown? Woo! Princess Bubblegum. Princess Bubblegum from Adventure Time is one of the most attractive cartoon characters out there. Like, she has pink hair, and she's just so sweet. I mean, she is made of candy at the end of the day. She's just such a nice person, and I think I was more attracted to that, because just being a nice person is like 20 times more attractive than, you know, actually being physically attractive. And on top of all of that, she was like freakishly smart. Wasn't she like a scientist or something? So you're telling me that not only is she smart, not only is she attractive, but on top of all of that, she's royalty? Seriously? But when I found out that her and Marceline were together, I was devastated because Marceline too is, again, good to them, you know. I'm really happy that they're together, you know. Woohoo! Yeah. Why couldn't it have been me? Feel free to comment your childhood crush in the comments below. I'm curious. I just want to see what you guys have to say. Thank you guys so much. I love you all. To all of my lovely 100,000 subscribers, I love you all.